started talking to him at the end there, I was trying to think of what I was going to say. And one of the first things I thought of was awareness. And so I can go to show you how much awareness. So I talked to, 4 people until it got to me talk about awareness. It's, you know, awareness as a veteran, maybe not necessarily like a combat veteran, just awareness of how they might have been changed. Like I've seen people haven't even deployed to a combat zone develop PTSD just by the chance or the threat that they might go. I've seen them develop PTSD from that, but I've seen it. The other thing is recognition. I know that usually goes a long way for somebody. Just simple as thank you for your service. That's always, at least for me, that always goes a long way.
So this is a tough question for me to address. I'm not a veteran. I work with veterans every day, but I feel like I'm kind of an outsider to address this kind of question. What I have seen is that regardless of when a veteran has served, whether they were in a combat theater, whether they were stateside for 4 years in the 80s, military service is always a very intense part of that veteran's life. And it's a very individual experience, especially I think in combat, there's an amazing bond that's formed with those that you're serving with, but ultimately it seems like a very individual experience for the length of someone's service. So I think we need to recognize that. And I feel it's kind of a cliche, I feel like we've discussed this quite a bit, but really separating the individual from the foreign policy that that individual was ordered to uphold. So whatever your feelings may be on a particular conflict or the military-industrial complex, that individual wasn't making those decisions on that level. So just trying to make sure that you're not coloring your attitude or relationship with that individual by other feelings that you might have about larger issues.
Well, I guess I feel like the things that we're doing right now and the things that we're doing this week are what we need to be doing all the time. I brought a copy of Tim Mueller, who's over there, his op-ed piece that's in the paper today, and it's excellent. It just talks about, things that we can do. I would like to point out Gretchen Jewett, who's sitting calmly over there, but ought to be up at the front table. Gretchen leads the movement at the University of Oregon to have more sensitivity and consciousness of the needs of veteran students and their family members. Is there anyone here from LCC? LCC also has an office for student veterans now, and I think, these are places where we can do things a little bit differently, and I would like to look at veterans issues as a diversity issue. I think that we have a population that have some unique experiences and some unique needs, and our consciousness and our ability to meet those needs and to change the way we do things so that we can be more amenable to that population, I think that's really worth our while. So I guess I would just say we need to be doing these kinds of things all the time.
Yes. All the way down. You'll hear me echo Shelley as well. Shelley and I are working together, and I would call her my closest veteran ally in the listening project that the Trauma Healing Project is involved with. But the increase in understanding, I think, needs to include our building more tolerance and capacity in our community to tolerate stories of pain. When we think of trauma and we think of exposure to violence, again, whether somebody's been in a combat zone or not, I think we change the way we listen to each other, and that's something that we really don't have a lot of capacity for in our community. Somebody starts talking about what's hard in their lives, and we do it in all the wrong places as well. But when somebody starts talking about what's hard in their lives, people turn off and shut down. And so it intensifies the isolation. And I guess what I'd like to propose that seems like it fits within the accessibility committee's sort of purview is the possibility of sort of facilitating a conversation about what universal design for a safe, welcoming community for returning vets would look like. And to me, it would be a trauma-informed community. It would be places where where we have the capacity for deep listening and understanding. Last year, we facilitated an intentional conversation between peace activists and veterans and active military because we see that as a very difficult rift. Not only are we in a community with multiple deployments, we're in a progressive community that is very actively anti-war, and that can have really intense impacts on returning veterans in ways that peace activists and other community members don't need for it to. So facilitating conversations in an open connection, I think, would be a place that the Human Rights Commission Accessibility Committee would really focus.
And I said diversity issue, not disability issue.
Oh,
I would
you're
definitely
right.
not want us to look at
Thank you.
serving as a
Thank you.
disability.
And David, do you want to come up?
Your spot's right here, it's your spot.
We have blank cards and everything to make room for.
Well, he's got a card, so.
Oh, okay.
He's right here.
And Gretchen?
He's next.
He was trying to be incognito, but we wouldn't let that.
Came in late.
Well, I apologize that I came in late, so I didn't hear everyone who went before me. I think that, as far as shelter care is concerned, so I work with shelter care. Shelter care has a number of programs for people with mental, psychiatric disabilities and brain injuries. So I think that in the 20 years that I've lived in Lane County, I've always been impressed with the amount of supports that are available within this community. But as I've worked with different groups of people that with either disabilities or homeless or both, I think that the complex array of support services that are available can be a huge challenge for people. So I think it's great to have everyone in the same room to talk about accessibility for veterans in particular, and I certainly hope that we can make accessing services and knowledge about what supports are available, get that knowledge out there and help people get connected with the supports they need, because I think that this community has a lot of things to offer that a lot of times people just aren't aware of it, or there's a lot of barriers to getting into support services. So I hope that we can reduce those barriers.
I believe what is needed is more recognition and support for the Disabled American Veteran Program. It takes veterans through their appointments in Roseburg and in Portland. Our drivers are all volunteers, there's no cost for it, and it's a way for veterans to get the appointment for the health care they need.
And in addition to agreeing with what everything has been, with what everyone has said already, reaching out is in terms of suicide prevention. When someone expresses suicidal thoughts or desire, intent to suicide, it's really a cry for help. They're trying to reach out and to be able to recognize that as such and not shy away from that as, oh, somebody needs to help this person, but taking on I guess a more active role and saying, I'm the one that can help this person by listening to them and by helping them get what they need. A lot of times in the interactions I've had with veterans, they just want someone to listen to them and then try to help them get connected with what they have available, the resources that they have. So I guess changing that perception of suicide as a cry for help would be a suggestion.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you all for coming today. You guys should pat yourselves on the back because you're the voices of the community. One thing to remember is our National Guard soldiers are part of your community. They're going to be your teachers. They're going to coach your kids. They're going to be the ER doctors for your kids when they break their legs and show up. They're going to be the police officers that have to come to your neighborhood and quiet down an altercation. if we have a tsunami, a flood, a fire, up 126, we could have a fire. These guys are gonna go up there and put that fire out. They're here for your community. We didn't sign up necessarily to go to Iraq. We might not agree with what's going on in Iraq or Afghanistan. However, we did sign on the dotted line. So with that being said, we're gonna be from your community going to wherever we're told to go, and then we're gonna come back to your community, and we're gonna be there for you. So the biggest things we look for is just a thanks. You know, that's the support that we need from the community. I want to touch a little bit on PTSD. First of all, I am not a licensed clinical social worker. I'll say that right now. However, PTSD is about trauma. Anybody in this room could have trauma in their lives. It doesn't have to just be a veteran, and it's not just about veterans. All veterans, all soldiers that come back from overseas suffer from combat operational stress. And that's what we try and do on this panel. Everybody on this panel helps soldiers deal with their combat operational stress. One of the big things I want to say before I get that red card is the COS, it can happen at any time. You know, it can be 5, 6 years down the road. Whatever that trigger is, whatever makes that veteran mad, they just need to realize when and how and what to get them back into their box so that they're not upset, suicidal, distracted by thoughts of being overseas or picking up their buddy's body pieces.
Great. So we'll go ahead and keep at this end for the second question. Second question is, what are some of the challenges veterans face and some of the strategies that have been successful in addressing these challenges?
The biggest challenges that we face when we come back is, of course, the economic part right now. Do we go ahead and use our educational benefits and not come back and go to work and then get our degree? Do we try and go back to the old job that we had prior to going overseas? Well, we have a career transition assistance program, so we work directly with the Department of Labor and the Unemployment Division in getting our soldiers jobs and building them golden resumes. So if they so choose to have a resume and get on USA Jobs and look for a job out there, we'll help them do that. We've had some job fairs. The Yellow Ribbon Program has a 30-day, a 60-day, and a 90-day program for soldiers that come back from overseas. The 60-day program is a job fair. Senator Wyden backed us 110%. Senator Wyden got a lot of our employers there. We have somebody on this panel right now that went there as a service provider and got a full-time job for his family. He is a veteran. We have, I think, 8 individuals that got jobs, full-time jobs, from that 60-day job fair. Let's see, the 30-day job fair, or excuse me, the 30-day Yellow Ribbon Program was all about people on this panel, service providers, so the soldiers were able to come back, talk one-on-one with the service providers, see what's out there for them. Their families were there as well. So the Lucy Zammarelis that take care of family services, they were able to meet with her, realize that there's daycare. If they need something to talk about, they can go see her. Her program's free, as long as it continues to get funded. Our women veterans, we have women veteran resources. A lot of people don't realize that there's women that fought over there. And there's no front lines or back lines. These women get behind the 50 cals and they're ready to fight.